So what are some of these?
So that's Gum Alley right there, which is pretty cool. Like Post in Seattle.
Gum. So people just stick their gum?
Yeah, people just stick their gum on this wall. It's pretty trippy. It's funny. It smells a lot like bubble gum. I mean, like you get like fruity flavors, and it's so weird, dude, walking through it. It was a total trip.
What about the pipes? What do the pipes go to?
So the pipes that are there, I think, are existing like maybe like water pipes or sewage, or I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of fitting, right? You put gum on the sewage pipes. It's really weird.
I wonder if they'd ever have to replace them.
Yeah, it's a little weird. That was a pretty good one right there.
Bike fast to pass.
Oh yeah, so this was an old sack. This was some footage that was taken. Just kind of some B-roll that I did in Old Sac. We have the Sac portion. This is really cool. Hi Moji. It's a store in Arden Fair Mall that does like anime characters.
Yeah, I've been there. I've bought a couple of things.
It's really, really cool. The people there are super nice too. The staff was super cool. So in most shopping malls, you have to walk in with your cell phone. You can't go with a big old honking camera. They don't really allow that. But yeah, I went through Post and cleaned it up a little bit, and
that's always the hard part. Recording on a camera is a nightmare.
Oh yeah,
nothing feels more awkward. Holding a camera feels secure and right. Holding a cell phone feels like peeping Tom.
Yep.
Like there's an issue. Somebody's doing something they're not supposed to. And then in Japan, what was it? They put software into iPhones to where it blinks and makes a noise if you're ever recording.
What a trip.
Because people were in the bathroom. And so on some of our wholesale pages where we trade and buy, sell wholesale lots, you'll get people who sell like 1,000 of one iPhone. And it has a JPN in the serial number because it's 20% less, 30% less, because any customer is going to use it unlocked anywhere.
That's crazy.
It's horrible because it's just going to have a noise every time you're shooting a video or a light that's on. And it, on iPhone X or 11s, the flash that bleeps fucks with the image quality.
Wow.
So your 4K, your shooting is always a pain in the ass.
Well, I think it's a trip too that like people actually do stuff like that. I mean, you just kind of got to like think about it for a second. I mean,
there was something I saw where it was 48.4 years is the average age person in Japan.
Wow.
So
that's pretty crazy.
Imagine an old folks home.
Yeah. Right.
That's what Japan is. So there's going to be some people from like the 60s, 70s where it wasn't readily available, and it was a little more like, oh, sneak a peek of an ankle.
Right.
The thigh.
The cane. Yeah. The cane went like missing, and now it's all digitalized.
And they don't, it's not their thing. And then you have they
have no clue.
Yeah. They have no clue. So of course they went rampant with these hidden camera spy stuff, and then it was outlawed. So
people that's a trip though. It's really unfortunate that people do stuff like that.
I think Rogan and a bunch of other podcasters were talking about the declining birth rate and how this is going to be the norm for almost everyone. Then there's going to be no new innovation. You know, people are going to be 50, 60 years. The motto. It's going to be insane. Japan is really showing it because when I was 13, Fast and the Furious was the big thing. Tokyo Drift.
Yep.
Everyone wanted to go to Japan.
Yep.
When I went to Japan, 2008, flew into Korea, flew back out, stayed over for 2 days waiting for a flight. Great place. But boy, it was so like, don't do this, don't do that. So much, what's the word? So much culture that if you miss, or if you unfortunately disrespected somebody, you had cops were on every corner. Like somebody was there to, settle down, do this, do that.
Well, it's really interesting you're talking about that because, you know, I married a Asian woman, and, you know, my wife, and it's interesting. I've learned a lot from her family, and it doesn't matter where in Asia. Well, I guess it does, but they have a different way of doing things. And so it's very, you know, your name is everything. And if you if you do something, it reflects badly on the family name.
The honor of the house.
Yeah,
and things.
yeah, it's a big deal. Like people, and I mean, in Japanese culture, you know, they commit, what is it?
Seppuku.
And it's just one of those things where I think a lot of people in the West don't understand that. But to them, the family name and honor is more important than any amount of money or, you know, whatever. So it's a little bit of culture shock. So it's interesting you're talking about that.
I was watching, what was it, YouTube Reels or something, and Logan from Wolverine.
Yeah.
They were all doing seppuku at I think it was Hiroshima, and he was in a hole and he saved the guy from the Wolverine movie, and he turns out to be the villain in the end. But that's ironic that Japan and all this comes up today, like not even 3 hours after. And I was like, oh shit, that's how I knew the name. I remembered.
Yeah, it's a trip.
For those of you who don't know, this is during business hours, and this is Brandon from Dronecast. He's the CEO.
Yeah, so I'm the founder, AKA my nickname, Dean Collins. Everybody really knows me as Dean Collins, but my real name is Brandon, yes.
So why do you go by Dean Collins?
It's kind of an interesting story. So my nickname growing up was Dean, and people are like, well, how do you get Brandon and Dean? Well, they used to call me Deanie, Deanie, Brandini. So it stuck with me. Dean stuck with me. And then I had a former business partner who a lot of people on this podcast probably know, back in the day, KSFM 102.5, Chris Collins.
Yeah.
And so I'm the alter ego of Chris Collins. I became Dean Collins.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's at an age now where I think he's ready to retire, and he's just, you know, had to move on.
Such a big name back in the day.
He's such a cool dude. I mean, I have total respect for him. He's a close friend. His kids are friends. He's been a family friend for like 40 years. Super neat dude. His real name is Timothy Anderson. I'm sure there's not a lot of people that know that, but kind of trivia.
Dropping some knowledge. Anyone in Sacramento, Carmichael, Fair Oaks, even Rio Linda, everyone growing up, it was 106.5, The End.
Yep.
102.5, 105.1, which became 101.9, The Wolf.
Yep.
But we all listened to the radio because if you didn't have CDs, you had the radio.
Yep.
And when your cell phone came out, people weren't like, oh, MP3s.
I remember those days.
Do we have FM radio on our phones?
Right.
That was the cool thing. And then if you had a headphone jack, back for us in back 2003 freshman year,
yeah,
it was like, let's do it. Got a headphone, wireless. Let's put it through the beanie, put a cell phone, and listen to the radio. So you listen to 102.5.
Yeah.
And all the new music come out, and you'd be like, I wish I could record this. Nowadays, you're like, screen record, grab.
Oh yeah, it's totally different these days for sure. But he's a really cool dude. I met a lot of really neat people through him.
How'd you meet him?
So my aunt, who's an esthetician and has been doing skin now for eons here in Sacramento, she was an in-house makeup artist for Dior, and she met his wife, Shannon, and they just hit it off. They became best of friends, and through Shannon, obviously introduced to, you know, Tim or Chris, I should say. And through the years, it just, you know, it became a family friend, and he was just, he's a really super neat dude.
That's good to hear. A lot of people, they get big on the internet or big in their industry.
Not him.
And it's so often that they just family, friends, they ask them for money. I've talked about on this podcast. Yep. There's always a lot of drama, so it's good you guys stayed in touch.
It was really interesting too when we joined forces. So Chris Collins had a company called Dronecast back in the early 2000s, and they were using, you know, the ISDN lines back in the day to broadcast sporting events, concerts, stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I was
gonna say. They were at the concerts. They had the big black banners.
Yep, Dronecast.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So he started Dronecast. They blew up. He became a big name. He moved to Seattle. He lived with his family in Seattle for quite a few years. And then he returned, I want to say maybe like 2009, 2010 back and moved to, I think it's like the Tahoe area, South Tahoe area. And, but really interesting. So when we first started our partnership, he had a bunch of platinum and gold albums that were from the record companies. They were RIAA certified records, and they were all presented to him, obviously, because he was the program director in the past for KSFM 102.5. And so he wanted to inventory all of these different albums. And so he brought them to me and he said, hey, you know, let's clean them up and make them look nice. I want to take pictures of them and so forth. So for doing that, I got to hold on to them for a couple of months. And in my home office, I had the walls littered with like Janet Jackson's Control. I had, what else? Like Lionel Richie's platinum album. I mean, Everyone Who's Everyone, Midnight Star back in the 80s. It was so cool. And so, you know,
you were just transferring like.
Yeah, we were just like cleaning him up and everything, getting him ready. And then, of course, you know, when time came to give him back, I was just like, oh. But it was a lot of fun just walking into my room. And a lot of these like bands had a lot of they had a lot of influence on me growing up. So I'm 39, or maybe 39 in December. And I was always an old soul. I had a lot of friends that were a lot older than me. So I could enjoy, you know, music trivia and facts like that. Mm-hmm. So to have these albums in my home office was just such a treat. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I grew up in a somewhat, I'd say, blue collar home. Uh-huh. But my grandfather made music with Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson.
Very cool.
Like Merle Haggard, stuff like that. And so his walls were littered with guitars and records.
Oh, how neat.
So in his living room, he had these, you remember the old, probably early 90s, almost 40. You ever been to a house where somebody's wealthy enough that they had their own bar?
Yeah, a little wet bar.
But you remember that chrome they used to do where it looked like piping that was chromed over?
Yep.
So my grandfather made this entire guitar rack that was like, you know, nowadays how you see posters at Walmart.
Yeah.
Like they're on a swivel, the poster. Think of a guitar that's got two plexiglass pieces.
What a trip.
Just chrome piping around it. So you'd have those and then records in between.
Wow.
And so I think I've mentioned it on the podcast, but we used to never be able to touch these guitars or bear the whip.
Well, yeah.
I mean, so the switch.
Right.
And so it reminded me when you're talking about those, I'm like, man, I've seen so many. My grandfather was probably one of the most racist men I ever met. Nothing, Janet Jackson, whatever, but everything from like really, really old 1950s, 1940s records.
Like Waylon Jennings?
Yeah, 45.
I love Waylon Jennings.
Just to stacks of old records.
That's so cool.
Tennessee, Nashville, that he had no names on, that he'd be like, oh, I could tell you any which one by the sticker or the color.
Sure.
Jesus.
It's interesting you say that, you know, like back in the day that, you know, a lot of people were raised in that environment, and a lot of it was just not being educated on different cultures. Mm-hmm. And so, and I mean, I think all of us can kind of relate a little bit that are a little older. I had family members that were the same way. Oh, yeah. And, you know, one of the cool things about music, now that we're talking about music, is that it was a way to kind of break those barriers and bring people together. It didn't matter whether, you know, cause like, it's funny, the most racist of racist people back in the days would go to blues bars and listen to, you know, some of these famous blues musicians that were black. Mm-hmm. So
that was one of the things, because we weren't allowed to go to Michael Jackson's concert when we were kids. Uh-huh. You know, being it's Michael Jackson, you know, don't support it. Great.
Right.
But then you'd sneak off and go to like rock, metal,
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, exactly. Metallica, Papa Roach. We went backstage at a Papa Roach concert.
Nice.
And it wasn't really my parents, because my stepfather is Native American, so he's already darker skinned.
Oh, very cool.
So that was
I'm Native American.
Yeah. So he's Blackfoot in Chippewa from up in Montana.
I'm Iroquois.
Oh, nice. And so he, when him and my mother got together, he got pistol whipped by my grandfather. Yeah. Big old scar on the back of his
sure.
head.
Yeah. That must have been like a big no-no.
Oh, yeah.
Taboo.
It was
totally
very taboo. But, you know, he's willing to take 3 kids on. So, of course, you know, there was some ground there, and he got over it. But it was definitely a story that I'll never forget.
Absolutely.
So most kids always bring up a concert to when I was a kid. It was, no, you can't go. I don't like that. You know, nobody ever liked the 14-year-old style of music. It's always something stupid. The kids who always brought up Billie Eilish, like, nobody really liked it when they first came out.
Blink 182 was like our version back in the day, right?
Fall Out Boy.
God,
that was it. And it was like, no, you can't go. I don't like that music. Or back in the 70s when Kiss came out and they're like, devil music, worshipers, Satan. And you'd still go. And you'd experience it. And then you'd have your mind opened up. Like, okay, this isn't so bad.
Right.
Or if it's like over time put on, similar to how the racism in my family kind of got over. We all just did it. Or like, dated a darker skinned woman.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, wow, not so bad."
Exactly.
Especially when you force it around. And again, I think that's all. You know, I think that's it. I mean, I was fortunate enough. My father was a theologian growing up, so I experienced a lot of culture through religion. And so, like, a perfect example is my father, and this was during probably maybe 2 or 3 years before 9/11 happened. He was an American convert to Islam, and, you know, white as day, you know, but it was really interesting because it allowed me to look at, you know, people from the Middle East in a different way. I didn't really look at them like, oh, you know, geez, I wonder if they have, you know, something strapped to them, or it was more like, okay, because I had an understanding. I broke bread with these people. I was at the mosque, you know, Eid, their celebration, their annual celebration. And so it really opened my eyes to how, these are just normal people like you and I.
Oh, yeah.
They have different ways of doing things, but that doesn't make them a terrorist. It doesn't make them a threat to our society. You know, these are just normal people.
When I was a kid, I thought every person in Islam was a terrorist.
Exactly. Because that's what you hear on the news.
9/11 as it happened.
Right.
And then the news was like, oh, Islam, what was it? Al-Qaeda. All of them are the enemy of the state.
Right.
Now.
Exactly.
So you had people in like New York, what was it? Florida, Texas, everyone being attacked, similar to what happened in 2020 with Asian Americans and so on and so forth. But it was a lot worse back then.
It was crazy. I can remember back in high school, I had one of my best friends, like we would do like rides. He had a truck. He'd take me back home instead of me having to take the bus. And I remember we were having a conversation one day while listening to KSFM 102.5. This was way after Chris Collins left, but we were in the truck and we were talking, and the subject came up, and this was right after 9/11. I think I was like a junior in high school. Maybe like it was like a week or two fresh. So everybody, you know, knew about it. And he looked at me and he said something to the effect of, you know, Muslims are all terrorists or something. I don't remember exactly what the comment was, but I remember looking back at him and I said, so my dad is a terrorist? And he stopped and he thought about it for a second. And he was like, what do you mean your dad? And I said, well, my dad's a Muslim. And he goes, really? And I'm like, yeah, he's been a Muslim for the last like 5 years. And so he's a terrorist. And so I think the more that people started talking about it, and like word got out there that, hey, there's extremist groups in every religion, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam.
And it's not always a religion.
Right. Yeah, religion was the key that was used. A lot of people used that as kind of, okay, you know, let's go in and invade this country and let's do this, this, and that. But we all know, anybody with half a brain knows why a lot of these politicians did what they did.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but
I think it's what they declassified quite a bit, but Bush and his family, and then Clinton and them before, and then, you know, we all know the history, but man, it's a nightmare. Back then, now I have friends like Abdur who's been on this podcast. Mm-hmm. He's Muslim. Yeah. You know, he celebrates Eid and he does it all.
Ramadan.
Yeah. And he's not the best person while fasting. I will say he's a little bit of a crabby bastard. Yeah, I'm looking at you.
I don't think a lot of Muslims are. I think it's, you know, it's funny. And I think that kind of fits into the Middle Eastern culture, right? So, and it's a lot like the Asian culture because you don't go around and necessarily say what you do that's against the religion of the family. It's just kind of like, the whole 1950s mistress on the side type thing.
Yeah, it's always,
but with like food or alcohol or whatever. So I think a lot of that goes on. And
we had a kid that educated us quite well in our the Love to Fix store. What was his name? Ibrahim. And he was in here and he was like, that's not haram. That's not haram. That's not haram. Everything that was... And we had no idea until he's like, you can't touch this. You can't do that. You can't pick up the food. He's like, no, haram. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't really know.
There's a lot of rules. And in Islam, there's a lot of rules. And it's interesting. I think it's also, I think religion was the core of it. It started it. And then I think the rules just kind of, it came along with that. And it's like, it's taking translation in the Quran literally, right? Instead of looking at it figuratively, like a lot of, secular Christians do these days. I happen to be a born again Christian, but there's stuff in the Bible that I do not agree with. And that's okay. Everybody has an opinion and it's fine. I mean, love me or hate me, I could give a shit,
It's so funny you bring this up because me and Eric were talking the other day. I think the episode came out today about religion and my experience with religion. And boy, it's had me thinking through the evening about how when I was a kid, I think I've been baptized 4 times.
Oh, gosh.
4 times.
You're like me.
It's crazy to think about
Catholic, born again.
No, it was all Christianity.
Right.
But it was every church wanted to do it again because it was a celebration to bring people in and to celebrate you as this like born again person. And all I can think about now is like, so if I ever come back to the religion part of my life, I'm not very religious now.
Right.
Do I do it again? Or is it just now that the idea is like these churches wanted to celebrate to get more viewers, or like back then it wasn't real social media.
Sure.
It was more to incentivize other kids to do it. And like, it's the hip thing. It's cool. It's a celebration.
Right.
Parents will donate. Other people will give you money for your little, gosh, it just seems like.
I think there's definitely a lot of churches in the States that, make church a business. And to a certain extent, most all churches are a business. And so, being a believer myself, it was very difficult to kind of find a place to lay my head.
Oh, I bet.
And because there's so much business involved in it. And of course, me, myself being a businessman, I can see right through the BS all the time.
That's my problem a lot. Yeah. Every person, like what we were talking about the other day, there was a pastor. I don't know if you saw the broke, busted, and disgusted guy.
Yep.
He claimed my video. I had just 30 seconds of him talking. He's a pastor talking on Instagram.
Sure.
You wouldn't believe that it's copyright claimed. Really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
I would think that's fair use. I'm just letting you know. I think it's fair use.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Take it. I don't care. But it's so funny that this man can then scream at all his people how they so broke he can't get a Movado watch.
Right.
That's nuts.
It's crazy. That's where it's out of control. And that's where, upper management, or I should say the pastors or bishops, that's where they've really kind of, gotten it wrong.
I think that was his church that he has as a live streaming. I think federal government, when you see something that's like that actively corrupt, all right, let's just review that 501c or, there's paperwork that somebody's got to pull the strings on. It can't all be righteous gemstones, HBO style. But that's just pushes me further. But
it's hard. It's really, really difficult to find a home. I was able to do it. I'm just going to throw the shout out on there because I really love my church. I love the people there. Center of Praise. It's a great church. It's off of Capitol. Extremely culturally diverse. Everybody from black, white, Asian, purple, pink, it doesn't matter.
Very inclusive. Yeah.
Everybody goes there. It's, the word is amazing. The Bishop Parnell Lovelace is just an awesome human being. Management there does a really good job of keeping the eye on spreading the word instead of taking from the people.
The tithes.
Yeah. And that to me is just that's a huge turnoff. I mean, that should be something that, and I know in the Bible, it, talks about tithing. Tithing is extremely important for a church. But I think there's this fine line where it's like, okay, wait a minute. New Mercedes, Audi,
it should be for the church and the held of the church, but not the people. Like, you don't need to live in a 15 bedroom mansion.
No,
with
it's
6
not like
cars.
the Joel Osteen type stuff,
Have you seen the Righteous
Mr.
Gemstones?
Horseteeth. Righteous Gemstones?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Do you have HBO Max?
I do.
You need to watch the Righteous Gemstones.
Righteous Gemstones?
It's a family.
I'm going to watch that tonight.
It's like a family of religious, the old days where they would telecom their sermons similar to the guy on Instagram.
Right.
And get people to call in and give money. So they'd hold arena style. Well, imagine if that was like big money now. And you've got John Goodman or not John Goodman. What's his name? The guy who looks like John Goodman, the guy from Eastbound, Down and Out.
Oh yeah. Eastbound and Out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, a bunch of them are just real religious folks and they're living with their daddy in West Texas and they got 16 acres of land that are all houses for their family and they just fly to place to place. Yeah. And they got a compound with this militia and they make so much money just on the word of God, nuts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, that's not what religion should be about.
Oh no.
It's really not.
I'm not religious, and I can see this. It's so hard because my wife is. I'd say she's religious to a degree. She wants her kids to have some religion.
Yeah,
and higher power style religion. And then we have our cousins that are Pentecostal Christians. Yeah, everyone raises an eyebrow on that. It just sounds like snake charm, right? Like the
Joel Osteen.
Yeah, they can't. Hey, look at me. I don't die.
Right.
Well, I went to their church when we were in Oklahoma. Kind of breaking bread.
Bible Belt, sure.
Yeah, I was like, all right, yeah, we'll go out there. We'll see what it's about. And I'm nervous, sweating, and I sweat a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sweating, thinking I'm gonna get like somebody's gonna come grab my head and just start doing something because they. Please don't take offense. I'm going to tell this story. Don't take offense to this if you're in these churches.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal. But this lady, I don't know her name, don't know nothing, just randomly stands up and starts stating what she called prophecies. So she just randomly grabs somebody's head, just grabbing your head while speaking in tongue.
Wow. Yeah,
okay.
It's a little trippy.
How do you know who's in the church, who's not? I was visiting. My wife's visiting. Kids are there. We're all acting fine. They grabbed somebody right next to me. I nearly shit myself. I thought I was going to burst into flames. If there's any holy power in this church, just like, don't give me a heart attack.
Combustion.
Yeah, it's just
ignition.
Yeah, like something's going to happen, like some witchcraft, like it's all a show just for us.
Right.
So I was scared shitless. But then as everyone's, they were all nice besides the crazy head shaking.
Yeah.
They have their own life. They're not really like pushy on you or anything, but they don't believe in healthcare. They do dental, but no healthcare. They're like, I would say I've sewn my own hands up more times than I'd like to count.
Right.
I stabbed myself in the chest on accident with a razor blade yesterday.
Ouch.
It was not fun. I was trying to cut something. And
Were you leaking?
Yeah, I was leaking. So I got a butterfly. But that's, I stupidly play with razor blades a lot with all the stuff we do.
We're guys.
Whether it's 3D printing, molding, candles, etc.
Right.
Constantly cutting or doing something. And I cut myself and I really thought back to then. I'm like, this is something a person should go to the hospital for.
Yeah.
But I don't. I never do. I'm just always the one. I'm a super glue.
Super glue is awesome.
So I have a big old scar from a couple of weeks ago here. And then one here because I cut my finger pretty badly and I had just tied it off with a rubber band.
That reminds me.
Out.
It's funny when you said super glue, it reminded me of the Trailer Park Boys when Ricky shot his bag and like Bubbles was sitting there like gluing his bag together with super glue. I love that show. I am just like totally.
Somebody else brought that up after I had mentioned this, and it was quite hilarious.
I think it opened a lot of people's eyes too after they watched that. They're like, super glue really works.
It does. And all the guys at the shop now use it.
It's awesome. That's why they used it back in Nam.
Yeah. And I tell that story and they're still like, no, let me Google it. Oh shit, they do.
Yeah. It's used in the medical field.
New skin is basically super glue with a different compound.
Yep.
And so it goes back to when I'm at the church, I'm like, well, they don't do that. They were nice people, but I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that somebody tried to kiss my wife. And let me tell you the story. So this church meets people with a holy kiss when they're baptized.
Right.
So everyone goes mouth to mouth, like, and no lips, just like.
Right.
So somebody comes up, grabs my wife's hand. Oh, Leslie, okay. Pulls her close. I'm like, no, I'm not baptized.
Yeah, I don't do that. Yeah.
What's going on?
Right.
We're just friends, you know? This is not how just friends act.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just the weirdest moment out of everything. Nice people, cool. It's not 10 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Yeah. No, that's a little scary. I can imagine. Yeah. A little bit of culture shock.
I could not imagine somebody ever like pulling your wife in front of the husband to kiss them. But I kept seeing it with the cousins and the people there. And I'm just like, I would have preferred the snakes.
Yeah, me too.
It's just a bunch of people, grown people kissing. And then apparently there's like younger side of them that get baptized at like 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
And
do they get kissed too? Or?
Yeah.
Well, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the age of the consent? We're going to look this up.
Like,
that just popped in my head.
It's probably 16 there in Oklahoma, I would imagine. 16? I called it. Yeah.
Adult who's at least 18 years. It says, which means it's illegal for a minor who is 15 years or younger, consensual.
Wow. Yeah. Like people, like, you know what consent is at 16, right? Like,
so hold on. Why is it the second question on here is which is the age of 14? Which state has the age 14?
That's a little scary.
Minimum age of a victim is 14. What would that be? So if they're under the age of a victim, they're a child. So then it's pedophilia.
I mean, to me, it's all pedophilia. I mean, I look at, I shit you not. I look at, 20-year-old girls with their freaking, chonies hanging up. And I'm like,
about this.
Yeah. They look like little girls.
There's something wrong. If you, and I'll say it, if you're a man and you're looking at 15, 16-year-old style women and you're assuming they're 19, there's a problem.
Right.
For some reason, I was always hanging out with people 7 to 10 years older than me. When I was 13 to 20,
Same.
I was going to hookah bars, friends would get me in. And my brother, who was 8 years older than me, his friends would hang out with me if it wasn't just him.
Sure.
So we'd go places and do things. And then the women they talked to. Unfortunately, I'd talk to their friends, and they were older. Yeah. And it just bred something. Since I was 13, 14, I was talking to older women. And every time, being 30 now, I see somebody who's like, oh, that 21-year-old girl, she's just got done with SU or with SCU. And I'm like, run.
Get away.
That is a problem.
It's jailbait.
Any woman can look like 15 in the home with a little makeup, a little lace. That's your prerogative. What you do in your own home, your prerogative.
Sure.
As long as it's legal and not like viciously immoral.
Right.
But then again, I know people who are dating those 18, 19-year-olds who are 35 because they've got a little bit of money.
Again, I think the media is to blame for it. Like totally, like check it out, man. Like modeling agencies back in the late 90s, 80s, early 2000s, they were all about, and even to this day, they're all about, the
perfection.
Image. Yeah. And like
the Vogue,
these girls that look like they're, in their 20s, they're 14 and 15 years old.
Nobody, and what's funny? They have what it was at the TikTok. I'm going to stutter my words here. The age of use on the app is 13, but you have 9 to 12-year-olds using it, stating they're 13, and then you've got people dancing.
What did you think would happen?
They have so much data, on people to not know that the 40-year-old who supposedly entered into the app has a 12-year-old son or daughter who's now photo on the app, and you have that in the juvenile records or whatever in the birth records. If that app can't tell A and B together not to be on there, these phones are significant enough. It could just say, okay, you're not the owner of the phone, turn off.
Right.
They don't want to be scaring the masses. I get that.
Right.
But if you have a Chinese company operating in the US doing what it's doing with the data, they've already stated they've had breaches and everything gets reported straight to Shanghai. I'm just saying they should have the ability to say, oh, you're not allowed to be here.
Right.
Ban it. They already banned Andrew Tate as well, along with Instagram.
I heard about that. Yep.
Everywhere. I understand why he pushed all his misogyny, women. I definitely have my own views about what was good about Andrew Tate and what was bad. But banning him is the wrong idea.
It's the same thing with like Rogan, right? So
you're sending 10 million followers straight to a paid platform now.
Yep.
Because he's releasing his Experience 2 or 3 or whatever. And you're just going to give him $30-40 million overnight. Tesla truck got what, $1 billion in reservations. It's still 2 years late.
Yep.
And nobody's getting refunds.
Yeah, there's some total. I'm just gonna say there's some total fuckery going on like behind the scenes. It's bad.
Social media is horrible.
It's
bad.
It's a double-edged sword. Like being a business owner and better yet being a cinematographer, it's a total double-edged sword. And there's a lot of things that I see on social media that I wish I didn't. And but I think with time there will be changes.
I hope so.
There will be changes.
If the platform is held responsible, I think that's going to be a thing. If I created a website and I said, hey, you could post child pornography, but that's you posting on this subcategory of land I own. It's like somebody having a fire sale for illegal guns on property I own.
Sure.
That's what Twitter's doing.
Right.
They have places they sell child pornography. They have women who are selling their bodies on OnlyFans and advertising through Twitter.
Yep.
Instagram does the same thing, not as pornographic. And it's pushing a horrible narrative. If my son has a cell phone at 12, there's no way I can control every single app, and not all of them need parental control, but all of them have pornographic material one way or another to look at.
Yep. Yeah, it's a joke.
Children's YouTube.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. It really is. And it's weird. It's kind of ironic how, the algo will, catch on to something that's copywritten, but they won't catch on to things that deal with sex.
No, not at all. Or
and that's hate
speech.
Yeah, hate speech. Yeah.
You got a lot of people, Eric he's very left, of the spectrum. But so we were talking about, I think it was Brandon Walsh or Chris Walsh. He's very right, like conservative. And he always talks about how women's rights are just women,
Sure.
You can't really be anything but a woman or a man, so on, forcing his narrative on that. And so we were looking at something. I was like, man, this one's like especially hateful and like poking the bear at certain people where you should have just been like, okay, I really don't give a shit. Ben Shapiro, everyone hates him.
Oh yeah.
He's the way he's like, oh no, if I respect you or if we're at dinner together, I'll call you by what you ask, but I'm not going to be forced. You can't force my freedom of speech.
Right.
But I'll happily give it to you. I'm not against calling you what you want to be called. That's more the line where I'm at, where I'm like, you can't tell me I have to call you or whatever you want.
Or what, or right.
Don't tell me it's a law. You can't change my speech, just like you can't put a box in my voice.
Right.
And so we were looking at one of those guys. I'm like, some of these videos he says definitely have like a citation or something.
Sure.
Some of the shit he says is not on point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I feel like also my generation, or I should say maybe a little earlier than my generation, I was right at the tippy top of what they would classify as a millennial. So, but like Generation X, and they kind of paved the way for a lot of this stuff that's going on right now. And it's rough, and I think if you look even further back, you see that, groups even before that, or generations even before that, were, look at the 50s, right? So, the husband had a mistress on the side and it was socially acceptable. And so there's this whole, underground culture, right? That there
wasn't as many eyes back then.
No, well, everybody's got a camera phone now, so
exactly. So then it's to be made more public. Because what was that whole thing where it's like, as long as I can't see her, she's not involved in anything, and she doesn't have the house, the ring, or the car.
Right.
You can have her. Right. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
That's
pretty cold.
That's cold, and also like good for them. If they're willing to deal with that much shit, it's got to be worth it.
Right.
So you were talking about being a cinematographer. How often are you like on shoots? And let's start with, how did you get into being a cinematographer?
Total, like, just mistake, if you want to call it that. So I owned a 3D printing business prior to any of the camera stuff. And I had some clients that would bring in, they'd have CAD drawings of some cinema stuff that they'd want made for their cameras, attachments, so forth, whatnot. But I really didn't start to get curious until my wife and I had a heated conversation. This was before she was my wife, about cell phones versus DSLRs. And of course, I've always been, I guess what they would call a techie, referred to as a techie, tinker, techie, from the old school and new school. But we were talking about the differences between the two of them. And I said, my Galaxy, which I still have, can take pictures just as good as a DSLR.
Oh, so you were on the phone side.
Yeah, I was on the phone side, and totally uneducated, so we're going back and forth, and it got me thinking. I was like, okay, let me do some research on this. So Google, like everybody else does in this day and age. And I was looking through articles about the differences between image sensors in a cell phone and a DSLR. And I learned about, Super 35 full frame, 1-inch sensors, micro four thirds. And I got fascinated immediately. And I was like,
it's easy.
Yeah, I was like, I just need to find out more about this. So I ended up purchasing a used DSLR. My first camera was a 60 Mark II at Canon. And I did a lot of research prior. I knew that Canon had really good color science. I liked the videos that I saw that people were taking with the DSLR. And then I learned about Magic Lantern, which was a side-by-side firmware. So in essence, what it does is it works alongside the factory firmware. And it tweaks the settings so that you can open up menus, and that were designed by people in the UI.
I have to add, it does void your warranty.
Totally.
Not responsible here.
Totally. If you do not know what you're doing, do not do it. Like, period. I've bricked a camera before. Don't do it.
People bring in bricked cameras from
yes. Don't do it. But I went down the rabbit hole, and eventually I ended up purchasing a 5D Mark III, which was the holy grail of Magic Lantern. Yeah. An absolutely amazing camera. I still use it to this day. It's not used as much, say, in a commercial setting. That's just because the ease of use and amount of post you have to put into it is...
Bloggers loved it. It was number one, like 2012 to 2017 shot.
They came out with the EOS update for webcam, EOS webcam update.
I think I still have it on this computer because I used it for my Nikon Z50. And then I had to pair it with EOS because it was easier to use. Still a little latency, even though with 3090.
Sure.
But man... It was a good software.
The picture quality is amazing. It's really cool. And of course that started the whole DSLR revolution for the people that were, cinematographers or film people at heart from the onset. I went to school with some of these people that, were, and of course I'd always look at them and make fun and just like, you're still, you're still doing your thing. And how old are you now? And then the bug bit me, and I went down the rabbit hole like Alice.
You're still doing your thing?
Right, still doing my thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, totally. But anyhow, so I started out with the 60, went to the 5D Mark III, and from that point on, I was just hooked. I was fascinated by, color and depth. The coloring is what my first and foremost, my love. And then from there, it got even worse. And I ended up going to Super 35, which is a little different than a full frame camera, DSLR. In fact,
tell me about this thing. This man has brought a recording beast.
This is a massive camera here.
Got a wide angle lens there.
Yeah.
So that over here on your left. It's that big camera.
This camera right here. Oh, okay, there we go. You got cameras all over the place, man.
That used to be up here, and we would do a wide angle shot, but it ended up being a bit of a beast to try and deal with.
So yeah, this big bastard here was the camera that kind of changed it all.
For reference, that is probably, let's say, the height of a iPhone 12 Pro Max by 4. I would say 4 by 4. So 12 of these.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
And what type? You even have an actual XLR microphone.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Why an XLR versus like a Boom or a Rode?
So that's really interesting that you bring that up. And it's a studio condenser too. It's not like your normal mic.
No, that's the equivalent of one of these.
Yeah.
E30. I almost bought a couple of those instead of these. So that's a $400 microphone on a portable camera.
So the sound is completely different. Again, I went down the rabbit hole even further, not just image, but sound. And so the cool thing about the Canon EOS Cinema series.
Merry Christmas, a smaller XLR cable for you. I got a pack of 20.
He's got, this guy totally has everything. Like there's nothing that this man does not have. Seriously.
I've inherited the hoarder mentality of buying in bulk on things.
When you're in business.
I know, it's just everything's a write-off, but eventually I got to sell some of like the smaller items. Like that Z50 I was talking about, I finally sold it. I used it maybe 10 times. The photo that's on my computer, I've got a bunch of RAWs, things I never edited. And then I was like, man, it sat here doing nothing but product photos. EOS over to a laptop or whatever.
Sure.
And I had a customer who was like, no, I need a really good camera. I want to start like a home shoot for teaching food or something.
Oh, no, not another one.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, I got boom arms. I got everything you need. $5,000. I'll get you everything you need.
Sure.
You can set up. I didn't realize, but in my head, I thought I paid like $3,000 for this camera. No, I paid like $1,200 for the camera, $1,000 for a lens.
Nice.
And various minimum, like $2,500. Somehow I sold it for $5,000 on financing. Nice. And she didn't give me any time to like look it up. She's like, no, I'll take it. I'm approved for $10,000.
Wow.
So she's got her Acoma Pay, which we take financing at the store. Like, sure, I'll sell it to you. I'll just put the serial number in and take it. And then she's like, yeah, and if you have any lighting, and I swear this woman was setting up an OnlyFans. Like she wanted somebody to show her how the camera worked, how to put up the arms, little light panels. So I had a bunch of extra of these lights. Like, yeah, I'll sell you 2 of these with it. Racked it up to $5,000. Done. It was gone. I'll never have to look at it again, except I didn't format the SD card. So there's a bunch of candle pictures, some slime pictures. It's like, should I delete these? Yeah. I was like, you can use them for content. They're yours. You bought them.
It's part of the $5,000 price tag.
Exactly. Content ownership. Could you imagine a content ID? This picture on your website is owned by X, Y, and Z who purchased X years ago. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
So what is the box on the top?
So this guy right here. So this is a screen that pulls out.
Oh, that's what I was thinking at first.
And you have controls here. And then you also have you have controls over the sound, manual control. So this camera, the EOS Cinema Series, I don't know if it's on the 100, but I know the 200, 300, 500, and 700 all have and these are Canon Cinema 300, 500, 700. They all have XLR outputs that do phantom 48 volt power.
Yeah. It's hard to find.
Tell me about it. There's some cameras that are, $25,000, $30,000 that don't have it.
I know, what is it? Not GoPro, but the other one.
Insta360? Oh, DJI.
DJI is now coming out with their panel system. It has XLR outputs and even USB-C that have power.
They're pretty awesome.
These originally are so much lower in gain without phantom power. So on our original Yamaha, it did not give phantom power even though it had a button for it. For some reason, the mixer wouldn't power it. So I bought a cloud mixer. And that's a $500 in between.
Yeah.
For no reason. Except to be a big old box.
Except to sell it for $1,000.
It's so, it's normally, it's like $5.99. So I bought it from some mixer website and it's all supposed to be racked up nicely. Now I just got it on extension cables in the bottom of the ground. And then we go to the Rode, the Rodecaster Pro. It's not needed anymore. Yeah. It still sounds a little more crisp through the older cloud mixer. The gain is a little clearer. But man, if I would have watched a couple of YouTube videos and not been so impatient, I could have just hooked up a resistor.
Oh, so you have the same problem I do.
Yeah. It's like I could have just popped it in there, but I'm impatient and I think I have ADHD where I'm like, if I don't get the satisfaction of doing it now and it's completed, then I'm going to hunt forever in the wrong places. I'll go through a million boxes just to find the last one.
Yep.
And I'll just be satisfied, but it'll take so much longer.
Yep. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, this thing has, 48 volt power, like a lot of the Cinema Series cameras does, do rather. It has a Super 35 sensor, which is, it differs a little from full frame, but what's really interesting, this will catch you guys by surprise. So this camera's image sensor has a total resolution, I believe, of the output in megapixels is 8.3 or 8.7 or something like that.
So when the people hear that, they think 8 megapixels, they're going to be like, one of my cameras.
Right.
One is twice as many as that.
Sure.
So what does that mean to them?
So the difference is these cameras use bare sensors, image sensors. And when you put them side by side to, say, a phone image sensor, there is no comparison. Obviously, just because the resolution of a phone has 20 megapixels or 40 or 100, doesn't matter. You're still dealing with an image sensor that's very small. And so your dynamic range is decreased. And a lot of phone manufacturers, what they do is they, tweak it out with software. That's the number one go-to. Second is they have really good glass. I mean, it's tiny, but their glass is very good. They've got, huge R&D budgets so they can do things like this. Yeah. But, it's night and day when you talk about a 8 megapixel cinema camera sensor, a Super 35 sensor. I'll show you, if you want to pull that other camera up real quick, right there. I'll show you what it looks like.
I always tell people the difference in cameras versus like DSLR is like a hose versus a water spigot in your house that's corroded. You can have like the size of a drip versus a hose or a nozzle.
Right.
And one's going to be like a $200 faucet versus a $15 faucet.
And we'll just bring this up so the viewers can see it. I mean, it's huge. This image sensor is gigantic. And so the difference is the image sensor in your cell phone is about that big. This image sensor is about that big.
Oh, actually, let me grab you an image sensor.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So this right here is the image sensor from your cell phone.
That is an 8 megapixel camera.
Teeny, tiny little. And so this is the lens right here, the lens housing right here. And then on the back, but you can't see it when the housing is off, you have this teeny little sensor in there.
Would you say that is as big as the charging socket?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as big as a Type-C charger.
It's teeny tiny, so the difference is night and day.
And it's all about, because a lot of people don't realize cameras capture light. Right. So what light can be captured by a larger space.
Right.
Clarity, color, the depth of the photo, it's all captured in that sensor.
Sure.
So when people are like, 8 megapixels versus 8 megapixels, there's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Every Android tech boy comes with like 28 megapixels.
That was me.
Yeah. What is it? The OnePlus 9 Pro T's got 74 megapixels combined. What do you have? I rate you, sir.
That was me.
Yeah.
That was me. And it's just, guys, it is night and day. There's really nothing quite like shooting on a full frame cinema or a DSLR versus a phone. It's not all about resolution. And I think people get lost in resolution. Oh, yeah. Resolution. They get lost in resolution, and they should really be thinking more about the dynamic range.
Too many people also, the repair company that we own, They always ask us what television to buy when we don't fix their TVs. I got stacks of TVs that people donate, and they're like, problem. I'm not going to fix them. I'm not going to sell them.
Right.
Maybe got 4 or 5. There's literally a stack behind these cameras of just 4 TVs and a couple of 4K monitors. Problem being, everyone wants the better, hyped up OLED
6 series, 7 series.
But 8K is the new thing. Vizio. It's got Netflix. It's got Amazon Prime. It's got what you need. All on a new dime. And that should be their slogan. It's so dumb because I'm like, well, if you're 2016 TV, I have a curved OLED Samsung 2016 model. It was the
great screen.
Great. 6 years now, started developing tears in the pixels. It's because also it's on 4 hours a day.
Right.
For 6 years continuously. So it's starting to give out.
Sure.
And so now it's like little straight lines where the pixels go out, and
right.
it just starts to tear more because it's an OLED.
Sure.
Well, they've proven that they're made to break. It's constantly on tension to where you turn that up, heat, tension. Tears.
Sure.
Their warranty is 5 years. So of course it goes out, and I'm telling people, I'm like, don't buy the latest and the greatest. He's like, yeah. Guy the other day, I paid $4,000 for my TV. I'm like, you could have got a $400 TV. And it'll act the exact same.
Yep.
Your eyes can only take in so much information because there's only so much resolution, so much megapixels, so much space for your eyes, which are a sensor.
That's why I think it's ridiculous. You're seeing this trend in Hollywood where they're moving to full frame. And like, I get it for post. It does cut down your post time when you have a video that was filmed in high resolution, but it's ridiculous.
Full frame, you're talking about with the black bars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when they cut a quarter of the image off. So that's helping with the post.
That's Super 35.
Okay.
That's why they, came out with that. So full frame is basically, it's just a bigger image sensor. So it's like true 35 millimeter film, full size film, like what you would shoot stills on back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But they're, upping these sensors, and the resolution is, like on a lot of these cameras are 8K, and it's like, okay, but there are very few 8K, capable devices that can actually benefit from this. And second, like you made a great point. It's like the human eye can only see so much. And so it's gotten to a point where cinematographers a lot of new age cinematographers are using these full frames, and it's unnecessary. Totally unnecessary.
James Cameron being one of the first, like, okay, we're going to prep for the future in video. Avatar, right? He developed a camera that could shoot such a wide degree of information so that they could edit it in a way without losing quality.
Right.
Great idea. He knew that in a couple of years it would be ready to edit.
Sure.
Good for him. Right now, people are saying 8K isn't ready for use, but it will be in a few years. How much further could they fucking get from just doing like augmented reality movies? Like everything's going to be 360 degree 8K video. That's going to be the peak. Otherwise, you'll have high-end seizures, acute mental psychosis from being in some alternate dimension, and then just people committing suicide from their eyes bulging out of their head from being stuck in 3D video.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of where it's headed. It's.
Could you imagine the porn addiction?
Oh my God! Yeah, it's like, why go and have sex with your wife?
Exactly. You remember when Samsung came out with the goggles?
I do.
They sold every 60-year-old customer who bought those came in. I was like, "Can you show me how to go on the internet and use 3D video?" I'm like, "What do you need it for?" And it was always the first website to come out with 3D pornographic material was Pornhub. Walking your grandfather through how to select porn. And this was something we got paid a lot for. Like,
I'm sure.
Pay for discretion. Right. I can remember the first customer. I remember his name, his face, everything. This kid lit up like the kid from, what was it? Christmas Story, the Red Ryder. And all I could think was, go blow out your eye. That was it. I was like, you're going to shoot your eye out.
Yeah.
Go do it. Have fun. Never saw him again.
Well, and again, that leads to declining numbers in youth, like in what's happening in Japan. I think it's really ironic how Japan is such a tech like centered, country, and
all their youth are leaving, not staying there because I guess the opportunities could be an issue, right? There's corporations.
And less people are screwing because like everybody's doing it in VR.
Exactly.
So
it's the world. It's I don't know how this got into population. Sorry, but yeah, it's crazy because Elon Musk put me on the idea through another podcast of his, and it's one of those spiral moments. I'm like, no, we got 8 billion people. We cannot have a declining birth rate. There's no way. There's less people today screwing than there were at 4 billion people.
Sure
as shit. It's down like 30-40%. Yeah. Like really, I didn't even want to be a dad. Yeah. And it just happened. I call it, my son is called the 4 a.m. rollover.
The 4 a.m.
Yes. Oh, God. You could put ideas to it, but that's his name. He'll learn it when he's like 16.
Oh, man.
And I don't want to be a dad. I came into a marriage. I stepped in as a stepfather and was like, you know what? I'll raise this kid. I love this kid. My dad was a stepfather. So it was I knew the option. And then now I got a household of, full of kids smashing stuff all the time. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
And I never imagined being a dad.
That's how it happens.
To think of everyone else being like, oh no, fatherhood's sucker. And I'm sitting here like I was unhappy, thinking I was happy. And now I'm a dad and I'm like, oh shit.
Well, I think it's interesting too. I mean, now that we're on the subject of kids, I really think they add a element of responsibility to us men. I think it's different for women because they're just naturally, motherly, right? So, but for
just
men,
got Andrew Tate canceled, so let's tread carefully.
Oh yeah, right. So, but with men, it definitely makes us, I think, a lot more responsible, and not only that, but aware.
My wife tried to tell me, because I was a single man dating a woman with a child. So I'd come over to her parents' house. She was living there temporarily during a breakup.
Sure.
So her mother cooked every night. So I was like, okay,
nice.
Cooking. Free food?
Get better than that.
I wasn't this big. I was a little bit bigger than you. This is just all 2020's weight. But point being, I was there every night, playing with the kid, eating food, free food. They were down the street from my my office at the time.
Oh, gosh.
So it was easy.
Right.
Easy, just go. And then she got fed up with me. I'm like, what, the free food? And she warned me. She's like, if I was you, I wouldn't do this. She sat me down. I was like, you do not have to be with me. I'm a single mother with a child, and you have money, time. You look happy. I'm like, well, you don't. Like all I could think about was like taking care of her and the kid.
Right.
And I'd never felt that for somebody before. So it's one of those like hard
moments. That's a special feeling.
Dude, I was a fuck boy my entire life. I dated my now wife 10 years ago and we had an abortion. And I broke up the moment the abortion was done. I was like, I'm free. Here we go.
Right.
I was getting clean, sober, and I ran. To come back 8 years later, another child. It's like, I'm not religious, but I'm telling you, there was a plan there. It's a crazy full circle. So when that started happening, something biological took over. You can say Andrew Tate or whatever, but it was like, no, I have a need and a nurturing, like I got to provide, protect.
Right.
And my wife she's anti-feminist. She's like, no, I'd love to be at home and all day, taking care of the kids, doing the household stuff. If that's what makes you happy, I want to make you happy and take care of you, the kids. It's not what she does. She loves her job, makes a lot of money. It's frustrating. She gets worn thin sometimes. And I'm like, I wish I could do more. It's never enough for men, right?
Right. No, it really, that's interesting. We're talking about that. I think it hits home with a lot of men. I really do. I think there's something special about bringing life into this world.
Yeah, they said that I would feel different the moment it was my kid. Everyone, they hyped me up and ruined it for me.
More like scared as fuck.
So you're going to see that baby come out. Your world's going to change.
Right.
It was so much worse when my son came out because I was like, well, now shit, there's more. I got to do more. It wasn't like this incessant need. I already had this like protect, provide, nurture, love for my daughter. Now it's like, oh, you little mouth breather.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take up so much time and effort. Now we're going to have to carry 2 bags, do the, like, that was the first thought, very selfish and like shit. And my wife hates that I talk about this because I do the blunt thing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Get happy.
Why?
I don't know. For some people, it's easier, I guess. And so, like, if I'm mad at my son, I'm not going to like curse at him and like call him names or scream at him.
Doesn't do anything.
But I'm gonna walk out that room and be like, that little shit. He's like, I'm going in there and break a kneecap. If I was the man I was 15 years ago, talking to me like that, she takes it seriously. I'm not really gonna hurt my son, but like, so I say these things in like a moment of just like frustration in a sarcastic manner. It's just like, oh no, he must be angry. I'm like, no, chill. Like,
right.
If I'm coming in with a baseball bat and like talking very New Yorker, like, we got to.
Then you got a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I love my kids. But when my son was born, it wasn't this like overwhelming nurturing effect. It was more like oh shit, there's more responsibility. I got to hit it and get it.
Yeah.
It's another.
No more naps.
Oh God. My wife can nap in the middle of the day when she gets to. If I try and nap that isn't like an hour post waking up, if I'm not like, oh, I'm a little too more tired, I'm gonna hit 30-minute nap. At 4 p.m., if you try and nap, I'm out till the next day.
Yeah.
I can't do the nap thing. I'm a bear. I'm going to hibernation and I'll be up.
Don't wake me up.
Yeah, I'll go in 5 hours and then I got to take a piss and I'm like, oh, good. Okay, I'm up. That's it. It's weird. I get like 6 hours a night, maybe. If my son isn't up, he's only 2 right now. But if he isn't up and like spilt his milk or he goes to bed with milk still, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Just broke him of our bed.
That's a hard one too, because you're constantly worried about what's going on in the other room with him. Like, is he okay? We
just got our daughter. She's finally got her door closed. She is self-sufficient from
how old's your daughter?
9 p.m. 6.
Okay.
From 9 p.m. till 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I never have to worry about her. She's not playing. She's not doing anything.
That's a good age. 6 is a good age.
She was a nightmare to get in her own bed and get break of the bedwetting at like 3 years old. And now she is this perfect, self-sufficient, knows what she needs to do thing and follows the direction.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's upset she can't snuggle or,
It's called consistent parenting for everybody out there.
She's never going to understand that. It's going to be, oh no, but CJ got to sleep in your bed for a year, she saw.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, great. So
Here we go.
I know, right? So we're going to hear about that for a couple of years. How many children do you have?
I have 1.
You have 1.
Yep.
Are you planning for a second?
I am actually. Yeah, the wife and I are planning. I have a 7-year-old son. He's a smart ass. I love him to death. But as a boy, it's funny. He really reminds me a lot of myself when I was that age.
My daughter reminds me of me.
Cowboy boots.
Dude, my son's 2 and he does the same thing. Oh, you can't take them off.
He wore them. Yeah, he wore them to school. Just like I did. But these weren't just any old cowboy boots. These were bright red cowboy boots. And I'm like, oh, dude, don't do that. Like, seriously, people are going to make fun of you. I don't care.
I don't think they do anymore. Now the whole bullying thing is like not as
everybody's
bad.
getting a trophy. And
everyone's included.
Right. All inclusive.
Yeah. But like bright red cowboy, my son's got brown cowboy boots. When he said bright red, I'm like, oh, it could be worse.
Oh, yeah.
He just won't take them off. My son will put them on, no socks, and 3 days later, you feel like he's got mold on the bottom of his toes.
I used to wear moccasins to school. And like first grade, I shit you not, I wore moccasins.
What?
My mother, it was so funny. My mom said, honey, are you sure you want to wear those to school? The kids might make fun of you. No, it's fine. I want to wear them. So I'd wear them to school, and I just didn't care what anyone thought.
I had such a fear getting into first grade. I painted my nails with my mother's nail polish. We were at home alone. Mm-hmm. I think I was first grade 6-ish, and my brother was 12, 13 watching us. Mm-hmm. He wasn't watching us. It's like 7 o'clock at night. I'm painting my nails and my mother's stuff, and I'm like, oh, red and pink, that's cool. I'm going to go to school with this. Didn't think it was girls only. I had no idea. Like only girls wore nail polish. From 6 a.m., my father woke us up. To 8:30 late at school, I'm sitting there with a wooden nail file.
Ooh.
Filing my nails. Trying to get all the color off. down to nothing at first grade. And he's like, clench your fist.
Oh, yeah.
And because it was just improper in like 96 to do
that wasn't acceptable.
You would have had CPS at your house.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. It's crazy.
And people forget that you would actually, if you dressed your son up as a girl back then, CPS would have shown up.
Oh, yeah.
It was not the right like social thing to do.
Right.
You give them kids an option. So like the stuff that Southern California, they have parents at 4 to 6 that are cross-dressing their children and sending them to school thinking, well, it's not the kid who wants to.
What are your thoughts, just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on that subject?
So like, if the child wants to role play with their relatives, family, friends, if my son wanted to dress up in a dress, play with his sister house, they got a whole like school student thing that, I don't know, play set.
Right.
Cool. Play, enjoy yourself. Good fun. But when you start injecting ideologies different to biology to your own children, before their mind can wrap around it, the only thing you got to teach them is how to act in a general, substantial way.
Right.
To carry them till like 13. And then when puberty hits and your body really starts to change and set in,
right,
then you should have your own decision.
Right.
From there, it's all guided by parents. I don't think you put a dress on a boy and send him out there repeatedly and say, hey, this is what you do, unless there is an agenda. So like some of these people are doing it for clout, for TikTok, Instagram purposes. No 4-year-old's going to be like, well, I want to be a girl, unless he's seeing or the environment is telling him he wants to be a girl.
Sure.
You know, I'm like, that just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Some of the people are injecting their kids with fucking hormone blockers at like 8 years old.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I think that CPS should be called out on.
Oh, no, it can't. It's California. CPS can't go against kids now.
It's out of control. It really is out of control. And it's going to bite back.
Eventually. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are aware of, or even give a shit for that matter, about how that affects the world.
15, 20 years from now, either the kids are going to be very resentful or where they burn it down and say, F the parents who did it to them, or they're going to get into politics and then say, F the world who challenged them.
Right.
There's no good outcome from a child who's treated that way.
No, absolutely not. I agree.
It's against the parents or against the government who allowed it, or, you know, people who made fun of it.
Right.
I'm not saying like bash the kids. It's not their fault.
No, it's totally not their fault. If somebody is who they are and, you know, they know it, let them be who they are. But don't put, you know, don't indoctrinate with them with those thoughts. Or
my kids should know nothing about politics, gender, sex, and except for what is basics.
Right.
I don't want my kid to be an Einstein at 5 and then have to weigh the world of like killing half the population for food, you know, like the whole Thanos particular.
Oh, yeah.
Like my 6-year-old watched Infinity War with us. And so she was watching Hulk smash, and then the next it popped up. It was like, that one. In the first 15 minutes, her favorite was Hulk's the favorite, you know, smash, because my son loved it. And my 6-year-old's like, yeah, that's Hulk. He's fighting the purple guy, Thanos. Gets his ass whooped. This is where I knew I kind of messed up as a parent the other day. And I can't believe I'm sharing this. It's gonna be
it's all good. It's all good.
So
Let's
now,
keep it real, man.
Her favorite was Hulk.
Uh-huh.
Now it's Thanos. He's the strongest.
Right.
So when he snaps and kills half the people, she asked why. And I was like, well, because there's not enough food, baby. He thinks that killing everybody, then only half people will eat.
Sure.
She's like, that's a good idea. I was like, what? Like, he saved half the people. Like, what? Something's wrong. I failed. They say that 1 through 4, the kids know the eternity or the answer to the what is life. At 6, you get a hint of like, oh shit, did I make the right choice? And like,
it's funny. I think it's like, you know, the old kids say the darndest things type. It's like, no, they don't say the darndest things. they're really direct. There's no filter.
I hope she didn't understand. Like, of course she's 6, doesn't understand the gravity of that.
No.
But the idea, I just thought for a while, and that's what the whole population thing, that's 4 billion people. Just like, oh, she couldn't feed them. That's the best thing to do. And so we were talking, I was like, well, anybody who dies typically.
Mini George Jones. What was that guy, the compound, the Kool-Aid guy? God. I mean, as horrible as that is, I'm not laughing. That's terrible.
There was a lot of memes about it.
Yeah.
That's what he's laughing about. Just
the memes.
The comedy that came out after the fact of like, hey. The point of the Soul Stone in the comics was that they all were taken into the Soul Stone and then these people didn't really die.
Sure.
So I tried to like tell her, I was like, well, the people who turned to dust, they went to the Soul Stone. She's like, were the baby green? So Gamora, who's green in there.
Yeah.
I was like, was that a nice place? She's like, yeah, that's a nice place.
Wait. So the character is named Gamora?
Yeah, the girl who's in there. Yeah. Oh, have you not seen Infinity War?
I'm thinking of the biblical.
I understand Sodom and Gomorrah. Have you seen Infinity War Marvel movies?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it. No.
See, I'm a bit of a cinephile. So like when you get a series going and then it's like 2 seasons past, I'll start catching up. But when you get 22 movies past, I got in at like movie 8 and I was like, okay, I'm catching up. I'm watching them. Like 3 movies behind right now. I'll probably bootleg them eventually. Kids, ain't got time. But
Frostwire.
Back in the day, it was so easy. Now you got to go through like 16
VPNs,
surveys. Yeah, you got a VPN, 16 surveys, and then say you're a real person through all the captchas, and then they go, ping, 1x bet, and it's always an advertisement across it. And it's so funny to watch a bootleg movie. But I couldn't believe my daughter sided with Thanos, thought it was a good idea, and then said it was a nice place for all these 4 billion people on Earth to go into this stone that was all pink and purple.
I could see where that would be a little difficult to
As a parent, I was just scared. I was like, oh no.
My wife and I went to go see that new movie, Easter Sunday by Joe Coy.
I've heard horrible things.
So we love Joe Coy. My wife, by the way, is Filipina. So she's the one that actually, I taught her about Cat Williams here in the U.S.
Pimpin' ain't easy.
and then she taught me about Joe Coy. That was her answer back to me. And I was hooked. The minute I saw him, it was like, boom, I am hooked.
You want a water or something?
Sure.
Yeah, there's water straight back.
Go.
I'm just like sipping my energy drink. Sorry. For some reason, bought like 10 cases.
Well, the minis are they're much easier to, you're not as wasteful when you're drinking out of a mini.
We have a Primo
God, dude,
next
these have
door.
a fancy cap on them too. Look at this. Look.
Yeah, we
There's
usually
a
have
pop
them on the table.
top. Look at this. This thing has an actual pop top on it. That's crazy.
And you can refill. Instead of screw top, you just kind of flip it over.
That's awesome.
And so we have the Primo next door and we just fill them back up whenever we put them into the fridge. Yeah.
So Joe Coy.
Yeah.
So
Easter Sunday.
So we love Joe's stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Chris Collins is a good friend of Joe Coy, so it's kind of ironic, right? We learned all this, later on down the road. But so we go to watch the movie, and I'm envisioning kind of like a stand-up type deal, but a little different. And instead, what we got was, without ruining it for all the viewers, it was a fake story about maybe some facts that did occur in his life. And I was really disappointed. I have to say.
I was like hoping you were going to go with
I was really disappointed. I expected a lot more from, Joe Coy, because he's a creative person. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt.
I think somebody served this movie up.
Oh, yeah.
And said, you could be the next Chris Rock.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Sandler had a movie with Chris Rock about the two fathers.
Yep.
And the Easter Sunday, everything looked, the trailer, all of it, somebody's getting married, doing this, doing that. Aunt Walipa, you're driving out, this happens, you're taking the family, all the drama, all the trailer, right? And I'm like, this sounds exactly like Adam Sandler and Chris Rock's movie.
Yep.
I bet somebody served this script to him. Like, here you go.
It's the studios. They suck. But
why take one of the most family orientated comics of our generation and his family and throw them into this like movie scene. And I haven't seen it, mind you. I haven't seen it, but everyone has told me every little detail.
Don't go see it. It's terrible.
How shitty it was.
Don't see it.
But have you seen the Rotten Tomato score?
I have not.
Okay. In theaters? I think it's still in theaters.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Unless they pulled it. Yeah, they might have pulled it actually. Yeah, it was that bad. That's pretty bad. It's not showing up in the first page.
Yeah, not at all. So let's go here.
We'll
I can't wait until the 3,000 Years of Longing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching that one.
I'm surprised from the media and what they 43 now.
Wow.
It's better.
It is, but still, I mean, and I think it's better because people just want to support Joe Coy. He's cool. He's a cool dude. I think a lot of people can relate to the shit he talks about.
Yeah, I've been to 4 of his concerts at Thunder Valley because we kept getting free tickets and they'd always put us like VIP.
Yeah.
I wasted too much money gambling back in the day. Watch a podcast. But yeah, point being, he came out with something new every time with a slice of something old.
Yeah.
So he'd always have like my Ting Ting, or Ting Ting grew up to be like my Thing Thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's a funny guy. Everything's always family. He did the Budweiser commercials with his mother.
Yeah.
There's a cheers to you.
Yeah. That was awesome.
But all of a sudden, this movie just felt so Sandler ripoff-ish. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no fucking way. There's no way. And it's not even like you didn't have really good actors backing.
I'm going to give, you know what? I'm going to give Joe Coy the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just going to say that this was something that agents or managers or somebody that was in control have said, hey, you're under contract. You got to do this.
If he's under contract, it only grossed $12 million in the U.S.
That's pretty shitty.
That's less than what what's the cost?
Oh my God. It was way more than that.
It has to be.
I mean, they were using Aries, so... For you, those of you who don't know, Arri cameras are what they use.
$17 million to make. They lost $5 million. Damn.
They might make up for it in distribution, but I doubt it.
Because it's free for streaming on HBO Max. Yeah.
Well, they got the monetization right from that.
There's no ads.
Oh, there's no ads.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Well, then they're SOL.
They got $20 per person more than a ticket. Go to Google and buy this movie in support of Joe Coy. They need $5 million. Otherwise, they'll probably break his contract. Oh, damn.
What was that?
There's reviews? You can get Google reviews on movies?
Of course. Google's got their hand in everything, dude.
So it's 5.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Where's the Google reviews I just saw? Okay, no rating, audience rating. No rating, 4 rating.
Ooh, 2. Very disappointed.
Felt like the movie was trying. Hold on. Let me hit the more button. Trying too many things at once, comedy, action, drama, some romance. It was trying to tackle multiple things in one go. It was mediocre at best. Some key things that were missed opportunities to me. The opening scene, recycled joke that it was pretty well to know for Joe Coy with the headline comedian. This should have been new content. His character in the movie has a teenage son who's also half white. Almost nothing about Filipino culture. Why is that? The movie takes place in California where 5 million of Filipino families choose to live in the U.S., yet he had not eaten halo halo before. Halo halo is a popular Filipino dessert. What is halo halo?
It is a drink. So I don't know exactly what's in it, and I really don't want to know what's in it. And I know my mother and father-in-law are probably going to whip me after this. But yeah, a boba kind of deal, you know, but just mixed in with a whole bunch of like a mystery drink for me anyhow. I don't know. If you ask a Filipino person, I'm sure they know like right what it is. Like, you know, halo halo is huge in the Philippines.
That's like saying, what is it? The horchata, right? Is popular here because of the Spanish.
Right.
And then they just made rum chata. I'm not a big drinker, but that mixed with A&W root beer is the best TikTok drink ever.
Oh, I'm sure.
It tastes like root beer float from the 90s, like real rich vanilla. Sorry. But yeah, I can't believe it flopped so hard.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just, I think he'll be able to pick himself back up. And
he's got contracts on contracts. And then he's got his new comedian show. I think he's taking over for some type of streaming service for Will Smith.
Yes, I heard something about that.
10 comedians, they bring him out. They do like a whole thing.
Yeah.
So he'll be fine.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely be fine.
So with your new cinematography business. What is it that you do?
So actually, it's sports cinematography. I'm not a film guy. I don't shoot movies or any of that stuff. They have friendlies. They're called friendly matches. It's where teams from Latin America will come to the United States, and the players love it. The teams love it because people pay more here to see them play than they do in their host countries.
It's kind of like a scrimmage type thing.
Yeah. And so they come, you'll have two opposing teams, and this is off season. These are off season games. Our last one that was big was the Chivas versus Pumas in Fresno. And that was really cool. So these are both Mexican national teams, Liga MX teams. So we were the executive producers, so we weren't really the camera guys. I got more into that after Chris Collins and I split. And the reason I got into that was because of drones. So I love drones. I've done aerial rigging for heavy lift drones that can lift, massive cameras like that or even bigger. It's just so much cooler when it's on a drone and you have a cinema camera strapped to it.
Is doing all that for way too much money.
Oh,
it's all commercial right now and not like average hobbyist, but the hobbyists are getting into it. And
I love it, dude. That is one of the things I love so much about, vlogging and the internet and all of this stuff. You get these people that are truly creative that come up with these ideas, and it's like, hey, I thought of that. No, they did first. That's not the point. The point is they're coming together all as a community to put an end to these big Hollywood studios that have been fucking people for the last 40 plus years.
With their $16 million budgets.
Talent, they screw the talent. Like it's terrible. And you see it, it's funny. You see it actually happening in the Philippines more than you do in the States.
Well,
ABS, CBN.
We've gotten really good at hiding.
Right.
Like UFC. Still not disclosing what they're paying every single person.
Yep.
But we're really good at hiding it. And if you don't like it, we'll just go to the Philippines or to Saudi Arabia and have these fights. They do not care.
No, they don't. It's crazy. Like, I'll just give you an example. So I was blown away. We have a Philippines section of stuff that we do for concerts that come, the talent will come through to the Philippines. Some of our videos are up on our Dronecast.live site. But one of the things that I was amazed about are that the A-list stars from the Philippines are under contract with this major company. It's ABS CBN or ABCN or whatever. I don't remember what the acronym was, but it is they are a major label, I guess you'd call it, in the world of media there. And what they do is they will nurture talent and then exploit them. So, and it's perfectly fine there because, these people have, brothers and sisters that need to go to university. They have parents that could be sick. The list just goes on. And healthcare there, it's a completely different subject, but healthcare there is very expensive. You have to pay out of your pocket. If you don't pay, you die, unlike here. And so
their bounty hunters are like the repo men in the Philippines.
Right. They'll take your organs.
They will take your organs.
Oh yeah. They'll cut you open.
And when I was in Korea, it was very often that people's passports would be stolen when in contract to a business. Is that what happens in the Philippines for some of those people who are underpaid?
Oh yeah.
They take their passports.
It's so dirty, but these big companies are exploiting these very talented Filipino artists. And we've had talented Filipino artists here in the States. I mean, look at, the lead singer for Journey, Arnel Pineda. He was amazingly talented. Marcelito Pomoy, is another very talented individual. He's a singer and an actor. The list just goes on. JR Solona. JR, there's a ton of different great talent. From the Philippines, but a lot of these people get exploited because these major networks are still like Hollywood was back in, say, the 50s or 60s in the US. They just haven't acclimated yet.
Everything's still a little gray for them to do.
Oh, yeah, dude. If you want to be a criminal, the Philippines is a great country.
Oh, I know.
It's so awesome. You just go there and
I wanted to go to Thailand pre-COVID. I had a free flight to Thailand to go Bali. It's like, okay, I can go. Sure as shit, kids, pregnancy, didn't get to go, unfortunately. But I always wanted to go to Bali. Mm-hmm. And when I started looking at the statistics, you're sure to be robbed.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
absolutely sure something will happen, either burglar, robbery.
It's corrupt.
Either corruption, fake tickets. They'll get you on something. And if you're traveling alone, well, kidnappings happen a lot, typically with younger women, things like that. They'll hold you, ransom.
Oh, yeah.
The police will come, take their cut, take the money, go.
It's dirty. It's really dirty. And now I think it's even scarier than ever, especially in the Philippines, because, the regime before, of course, was Rodrigo Duterte, who was the president.
Is he dead yet?
No, not yet. He was, I guess he was the better of the evils. Now you've got Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who they named Bong Bong Marcos, right? It's like, okay, let me just hide the fact that my father was the, crazy criminal that he was, right? Or that my mother is pulling the strings in the back, Imelda.
I was like, hold on, how the fuck? Because I saw the Vice story on this. Mm-hmm. How did all three of them, the other female, Bum Bum, and the other president, how, with all the corruption, did nobody take a shot? There's not one patriot.
Because everybody in the Philippines has dirt on somebody. And if they don't have dirt, they'll make dirt. So they actually engineered the dirt to throw on others.
You would assume the government would have a CIA. We put crack and drugs into our own inner cities.
Sure.
We're probably doing the same to other countries. We got people who are like, fentanyl. Here you go. We made it. Here's some stuff. Look at the favela, Brazil, all this stuff.
Look at Central and South America back in the day.
I'm just saying, if we didn't have a hand in these billions of dollars that are missing in the Philippines, I would be surprised.
Yep.
If there wasn't some man on the ground with a pair of glasses and a black suit that's like, you know what you should do? You should run for president and we'll back you. Mm-hmm. More money? It's only paper. Here you go.
Yep.
But they're missing what was it, $40-something million?
It's foul.
In a deficit that just...
One word.
Dissipated?
Foul. It is foul.
I would kill them all. It's a different country, different laws. Just whoop, fresh slate here. Pick three. A janitor, a construction worker,
hardworking people,
just random hardworking people, and be like, okay, here you run. We'll find one of the three of you be president in a third world country, because they can really do anything in the Philippines.
Sure,
they can build giant buildings in a day, or they could mow an entire mountain over. You can cook for 1,000 people. There's a bunch of shit you can do there. Pick one hard worker, sit him on the throne, and say, hey, you got 90 days, or you go in the hole. That's it.
Make it better.
Make it better. And I'm telling you, you'd have golden palaces. They'd find that money.
Yep.
Okay, we found it in the hill in Bum Bum's place. There's that little tunnel, kind of like Saddam. They didn't learn. It's under a rock. Here we go.
Well, unfortunately, Imelda, the mom, is still around, and I don't wish death upon many people. I think she's one of the few people I can honestly say I hope wasn't around for much longer. She's an evil person. She's the one that's pulling the strings behind the scenes. And unfortunately, she's very popular in a lot of these, especially in Ilocos Norte. These are all, provinces, because she gives a lot of money to the local people.
Part of that 40-something million in deficit from when his father was around, yeah.
Let's give the people money.
It's not their stolen money. It was never their stolen money.
Dude, there was a Netflix documentary with her. Did you see?
I watched it.
She was in her big old dumb motorhome handing out money.
Money. Like you could have had the spray guns invented by them.
Yeah.
Just
which, by the way, they have.
Yeah.
Have you seen those for like baby showers?
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. They invented them
guns,
with their 40-something million. In that
that's what Imelda should have done. Exactly.
It would have been easier than the carpal tunnel she got from. Here, Alan, let me get some $100 bills.
I just want there to be change in that country, and I love the Filipino people. They're humble.
You have step in if you wouldn't be the U.S. Because imagine 20 years from now, somebody steps in today. France, Germany, Russia, some Latin American country. Canada.
I can't even answer that question. And the reason why is because there's global corruption. It's everywhere. And I hate to paint it all black, but truth is truth. And that's the truth. It doesn't matter if it's France, doesn't matter if it's Ukraine or Russia or, the United States. There is corruption globally. It is like a disease.
Power corrupts, absolutely.
Everyone.
Yeah. It's crazy because, like, if you took, say, take North Korea, and then you take the bad parts of China, and you take the bad parts of the Philippines, and made it one nation, who do you think you would have?
Jeez. Us?
Yep. Just saying, you got the overpopulation in some areas, the homelessness, the corruption, the crime, all of it. It's like, it's little bits and pieces of the U.S.
It sucks, man. I love my country. I love the United States. It really sucks, man.
I'm telling you, I served for it. I loved it. I had so much.
What branch were you in?
Army.
Oh, right on.
After 9/11, I was like, I literally watched it on the TV. My grandfather had served, and I was like, I saw his uniform when I was like 7. I was like, I want to be in the Army like Papa. And sure as shit, I followed through. When I was 17, I enlisted. Convinced my family. I was like, sign here. I'll go. It'll be great. I'll be back. And then it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was not this.
Did you go overseas or?
No, I went to Korea.
Oh, you were in Korea. Okay.
The thing that busted my melon and it got me so depressed was that we were on lockdown for 9 out of 10 months that I was there. And I left a month early. And then they shot at our, accidental missile fires.
Right.
Yeah, so we were in Camp Casey next to CRC at the 37th. And so we patrolled a lot. But we didn't get any fun. It wasn't like Pusan down south where people were like, hey, man, come down for a week. You'll be fine. Get a small transfer. No, we were battle-ready gear, 7 days a week. No fun. 4th of July, we thought missiles were coming down. They're like, coming down. Kim Jong-un, he's incentivized, said, we'll seek vengeance. And I'm like, it's not what I thought it would be. Because the first day I was there, I got a bucket of piss thrown at me outside of the airport. Not their fault. They've been treated poorly by soldiers. So, like, they just... Yeah. But it was a miserable fucking place to live. It was horrible.
Sure it was.
Great food with the Filipinos. There's a place called Cloud9 Chicken Tocino. I had that once a week. I had a 4-hour block that we were allowed to go do laundry, and I did it right next to Cloud9, this restaurant. Oh, that food was so good.
Dude, you got to come by. I'll invite you, the wife, your kids. Come by the house, have my wife cook for you guys. Whatever she touches, dude, the Filipino people are so talented. Men and women alike are talented with cooking.
Weird. They can put, how they say, if you hate what you do, it's not a passion.
Right.
If you love what you do, you won't work.
Sure.
For some reason, I found that a lot of Filipino people, Filipinas, when they do something like they do cooking, it's nothing but passion in it. Yep. Instead of throwing work into it, they throw a lot of passion into it because they're raised on, you're doing that with your mother and it's a fun time. It's you're doing something with your father, you're laying brick or you're putting up a fence. It's a fun time. It's like, okay.
Or you're not having to take a test.
It's not like negative.
Right.
It's not, when I was digging a hole, it was like, we got to get this done. Then you can have your fun.
Right.
No, they incorporate a lot of passion and fun to it. Like, I love it. Let's have a good time.
It's definitely a different culture and a different world. And it's such a colorful, a colorful culture.
Yeah. I never had a problem with any Filipinos.
No, they're super nice.
South Koreans. No. When I got out of the service, I thought I was like, anywhere I would hit a red button on.
Right.
North Korea up to the 36th. Yep. Totally fine. Just wipe it out. But that was my idiocy thinking like, well, it wasn't me. It was all them being hateful. But in reality, it was a lot of other soldiers and people that really pissed them off in their bigoted times since the 50s. We'd been occupying their land.
Yep.
And we're supposed to be helping.
Yeah.
In reality, we're just like, hey, we'll train your soldiers 1 month out of their 2-year sentence. And it was always college kids.
Yeah. And
they'd come by and be like, please don't kill me. It's their first month. They're thinking, I'm just going to die or I go home.
Right.
Like, damn.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that people just don't see.
It really wrecked my mentality of the Army.
I asked, it's interesting. We're talking about military. So I have a cousin who served, he was in the Navy for 5 years. He was an air traffic controlman, got out. He got into federal law enforcement, and he's now a special agent with one of the branches of federal law enforcement. And I asked him, I said, is there anything that you want to share about, some dirtbag that you put away? And he sent me back a really stunning text message. It was like 2 lines, literally. And it said, "Don't believe everything you see in the news. It's worse."
Oh, yeah.
That was it. That was all he sent me. And it was like, okay.
You can't be an appealing branch of the military at all if you are the military.
Right.
So the military doesn't put out any of their "here, come and join us" stuff. That's all media companies.
Sure.
And I don't think
contracted
out for life.
Right.
If you look at the trailers.
Samuel, what was the guy's name on The Military Needs You? Samuel, what was it?
Oh, the guy from I
saw a picture of him.
Shut Industries is your one-stop shop for severe duty military commercial consumer trailers. Nope, that's not it. That's a trailer. Not trailer. What is it? How would I word this?
Who makes the Army videos? Yeah. Who makes the Army promo videos?
I'm trying to find this. There was a company that did it before.
So they have like a lifelong contract with the military specifically for
it's kind of like Blackwater and all those. There's a company that's specifically in media that does all their it's an advertising agency.
That's a trip.
That's owned by a separate company that's tied to somebody. And I'm trying to find.
Although totally not surprising.
Army Social Media Handbook PDF for Fort Carson. This might be interesting.
Carson, that's in Colorado, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hate when there's anytime somebody's like, "Yeah, let me go ahead and be the Brigadier General and write a letter to my troops." Is that? Yep, that's Brigadier General.
Yeah, it's Brigadier General, yeah.
Best practices: you have to make the most opportunities, expand your knowledge base, and add your social media toolkit. This is your handbook, not only for only a primer to the basic operations of social media assets. In it, you will find the basic requirements for setting up and maintaining various social media platforms.
By the way, people, a Brigadier General is a 1-star general. If I'm correct, am I correct with that?
I think it's a 1-star.
1-star general, yeah.
This is basically like your chief of public affairs, the guy who's in front to talk to all the news people. That's crazy, though.
Yeah.
There's a Twitter, a Facebook, and
that's crazy.
Because they own you in all aspects.
Sure.
For up to 8 years.
Yeah, that's why they call you government issue. GIs.
That's a picture of an old.
Of course.
68% of these devices monitor breaking news. 67% of these use phones to share an event pictures, videos, commentary. That's crazy. So this is the social media handbook from April 2016. This is back when the iPhone 4 was out, iPhone 5, I believe. And it goes through some weird shit. UCMJ code of conduct.
They'll be updating it in another couple of years.
Oh, I bet.
10 year.
So our goal was to find DoD instructions, internet service based, was to find who owns the advertising rights, because that's probably the better question, though.
Oh, there you go. About us.
There's no way. They still have their phone number and the contact us on the bottom.
Wow.
Well, this is how you find out in the government.
That's pretty crazy.
Basically, I remember seeing a story that there was a company that owned the rights to making all this, because there's nobody in the Army that's like, let's make our commercials.
No.
So back to the idea is that there is a bunch of very stupid people in the Army, and like we're one of them, come up with an idea and they're like, we'll send it up the chain of command. We're like, okay, we could shoot a video. Well, most of these guys don't shoot their own videos. So there's like $1 million crews that come through a base and they'll prep a whole road, spray it with fake water, drive a Humvee, whip it, do their commercial. And it looks like a movie scene. They'll even clean up after, but they're not military. So
these are actors.
These are actors. And they'll strip down to do the thing. They're like, no, we're just civvies. We don't care. Always. And I remember the name of the company. It's on the tip of my tongue. But we looked it up back in like 2009. And this company was owned by a big proponent of like firearms and people who supported war.
Right.
And I was like, well,
Go figure.
That's a conspiracy theory all on its own, that they're doing all the media and they can put the image out.
Sure.
So if they don't have to act a certain way and they can just look, you never want to show, it's like an open lot prison in most of these barracks. Just a bunch of people who haven't gone to jail yet, probably should have been in jail. And they're like, I'm turning my life around.
It's funny you say that because I remember talking to somebody one time who went to jail a few times, and I said, so what was it like? And the first thing that came out of this person's mouth, they were a former service member, it reminded me of boot camp.
Exactly.
And I was like,
a parallel. They're made by the same people who come up.
And I was like, so what do you mean? He's like, everything. The wake up calls, the shit ass food, the crazy people.
I've never been to jail, by the way. This is personal experience from everything I've seen in America. There is a identical, like they're both surrounded in gun towers and chains. You're not allowed to leave without permission.
Yeah. Also,
you're constantly monitored, really shitty foods and defects. If you're not working, you're dying or you're on medical leave.
Which is probably worse.
If you're not moving up the food chain, then you won't get out of there. So if you're not progressing yourself, you're not going to go to a next duty station. Right. And so there's a lot of people who stay there like, yeah, I'm working on it. It's either this or death, or I'll be on the streets. Well, then they get on the streets and then they're across the street at the prison.
Right.
And it's like, hey guys, now I got one window, like tiny bars.
That's pretty, it's pretty sad. It really is. It's unfortunate.
That's the way the world has been built. If I highly think that if you reset society, some people say the Great Reset or whatever is coming. If you really reset the society today and rebuilt it without the knowledge of the last 200 years and all the bullshit, I think we'd do something better, than prison systems.
I would hope so.
Ratios.
Wait, to hope is to doubt.
Yeah.
I'd want it to be better.
If it was an option, because the way that we built it now is credit.
Yeah.
And trying to stay away from lower income neighborhoods, whoever may be there. Like, oh, I want to move up to the white neighborhood, and the nice neighborhood. And then I need my credit to be real high. But like a credit card from 15 years ago pops on my credit. And then you're like, oh, I got to move back down. It's just, this is your average blue collar worker. It's like, hey, babe, I got a $750. Yeah. You got $16,000 in debt. Biden's going to forgive $10,000 in debt. Hey, babe, I got a $620. What the fuck happened? I don't know. I just paid off credit cards. Well, that's America for me.
Cause
right
and
now.
effect.
It's everything. Well, I think we've been recording almost 2 hours. Jesus. I keep getting a text message from somebody.
Me too. It's like, bzz, bzz, bzz.
Dude, it was great to have you on here.
Yes, absolutely.
We got to do this again. Thank you so much for showing us your cool toys. And hey, let people know where they can find you.
Absolutely. So we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, Facebook, but the website's probably the best way to go. It's Dronecasts. So it's plural. So DRONECASTS.live, Dronecast.live.
And we'll have that in the description and links below. So hit subscribe, share, do if you care. And we'll see you all next time.
Life can be super happy, life can be super sad. I'm trying super hard to separate the good and bad. I go back to my future just to get to my past. But knowing me, my DeLorean will